With Tim Raines coming up. Raines has 2 singles, a triple, a walk, a stolen base. He has scored twice, and the only time they got him was a dazzling play by Tim Tuffle. What a day he's had, and now he has a chance to really take things in charge. Winningham at first, Candell at second, and Nichols at third. Drive into deep left field. McReynolds watching. Would you believe a grand slam for Tim Raines? That has to be one of the most incredible stories of the year in any sport. The first day back.
That has to be one of those stories. If you wrote it for television, they'd say that's too corny. It'll never work. What a way to break in.
So Tim Raines has a walk, 2 singles, a triple, a grand slam home run, and a stolen base.
Game points here on TSN 690. We're here till the top of the hour. That was the incomparable Vince Scully on the Game of the Week on TV. That was back in the 80s, I believe it was 1987, where Tim Raines missed the first month of the year due to a contract situation, and some calling it collusion, where nobody else offered him a contract. He comes back against the Mets and has that incredible day. We're joined now by a contributor to CBSSports.com, where you can see his MLB coverage regularly. You can follow him on Twitter.com/Matt Snyder CBS. It is Matt Snyder. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Appreciate your time today. Now, I know it was from earlier this year, but I caught my eye again. You know, when people repost stuff, and it really does still ring true. You had an article earlier this year on how Tim Raines is in great shape, perhaps to make the Hall of Fame this year. Certainly a lot of Montrealers listening are loving that, but you know, there's still trepidation because it's taken so long and because nothing really is guaranteed. What's your take on where Tim Raines sits right now and why his candidacy has taken this long?
I'm hopeful that this is going to be it. It actually would be really cool for Montreal if Vladimir Guerrero also got in and the two win it together. But we've cleared a lot of guys in the past few years. The embarrassing vote was 2013 when nobody got in. But 2014 we had Maddox, Glavine, Frank Thomas. And the past couple classes we've had a couple guys now. We know Biggio, Piazza, King Griffey Jr. are in now. So you're starting to clear some off. So a lot of people who had been voting for the maximum number of players in 10 now have some spots kind of cleared out of the way. And I'm hopeful that all the campaigning that a lot of people on the internet have been doing, myself included, I'm far from the most prominent person, but I have been doing it. It's starting to make more of the voters who hadn't voted for him in the past pay better attention to the fact that this is the second greatest leadoff hitter in baseball history, and it appears his biggest crime is that he did it at the exact same time as the greatest leadoff hitter in baseball history. So it was like he's kind of overshadowed by Ricky Henderson, but that doesn't make him any less great. So my personal opinion is, partially when you ask what's taking this long, part of it is overshadowed by Ricky Henderson. Part of it is that he played at a time when on-base percentage wasn't nearly as much of an emphasis as it is now. And that 385 for him is exceptional. So those are some of the reasons. Otherwise, I don't have a great answer for why. I mean, maybe because he was such a journeyman after he left the Expos and didn't really have one home for as long as in Montreal. And none of the answers to me are very satisfying.
Chatting with Matt Snyder of CBS Sports, talking some MLB here on the program. Indeed, Tim Raines was just in New York this weekend for the 20th anniversary of the 1996 New York Yankees, where he was a member of that team as well as the squad that won in 1998. Matt, do you think that any of the following two factors have played into some of the non-voting for Tim Raines? One being that he played most of his great years in Montreal, a market that certainly wasn't on the Game of the Week all that often down in the U.S. for some of the U.S. writers, and then two, the infamous year in which he was on drugs and admitted it and came out and was clean after that?
I'm sure that there are some people who hold the drug thing against him. That would be pretty frustrating given some of the characters that we've let in the Hall of Fame already. But, guys don't vote for guys for stupid reasons sometimes. I once had a voter smugly tell me he didn't have to vote for someone if he didn't like his haircut because it was his ballot. So that's kind of what we're dealing with here. I do think the Montreal thing is probably a factor. Number one, because again, the lack of exposure, especially back then, it wasn't like it is now, where you have internet access to everything and you can get the MLB package and watch every single game. You were kind of a slave to the game of the week back in those days. So that probably is a factor, and that a lot of people who cover him didn't see him as much. And now, like, a lot of people seem to point out, oh, you can make numbers, say whatever you want. Well, no, you can't. And his numbers are awesome on their own. You don't have to make them say anything. So I think that's a factor. Probably the lack of exposure in combination with the fact that there's no team in Montreal anymore. I think it's both of those things do matter, unfortunately.
All right, let's look at present-day Major League Baseball. Some interesting races right now. The Red Sox clobbering the D-backs in a 3-game series, culminating in a 16-run effort today. Matt, as someone who does follow the Red Sox, and then on this station we had the Blue Jays earlier today, so what a great race it is right now in the AL East. Are you surprised that the Red Sox haven't let go Farrell, John Farrell? He's made some very questionable moves or lack thereof in terms of the bullpen all season long, which has certainly been a rough spot for them. With the talent that they have, it is a little surprising in my estimation. What's your take on that situation and the management and the bench boss?
No, I'm actually not too surprised. I mean, he has the 2013 World Series championship on the resume. Probably has done a questionable job other than that, but that carries a lot of weight. And then you look at it right now, if the season ended today, they'd make the playoffs. And, you know, last year down the stretch, he wasn't there because he had cancer. So coming off cancer, having his team in playoff position, and it's a guy who won a World Series there, I just think it'd be awfully difficult for them to justify firing him, even if he does make questionable decisions. But you know what? A lot of managers make questionable decisions. The bottom line at the end of the day is he's got them in playoff position despite several injuries in the bullpen to key components. I mean, they revamped the bullpen. They went and they got Carson Smith for the 7th to go with Koji Uehara in the 8th, and they went out and got Craig Kimbrell for the 9th. Well, Kimbrell was hurt earlier this year. Uehara's hurt now. Smith's out for the season. So bullpens are volatile as it is. Then you factor in those injuries. I think even if you can complain about some of the stuff, he's had to deal with a lot of adversity there.
In terms of the Blue Jays, we were just talking earlier in the program about the efforts that their front office has made this year, just based on some of those pickups. You talk about bullpen, guys like Benoit and Jason Grilli and how well they've worked out. When Alex Anthopoulos was let go of Montreal, or rather when he walked away from the Blue Jays situation, and certainly Blue Jay fans were upset about it, a Canadian general manager, but things have really gone well in terms of that front office and how they've managed that roster, haven't they?
They have, but I would still submit the overwhelming majority of the roster was in place already, and that was the work of him. So I still thought it was kind of a bad way to go out. The first playoff berth in a generation, really, since the Joe Carter home run. So I was not a fan of them letting him go, but a few moves have worked out in the bullpen for sure. That Jay Happ in the rotation is ridiculous. How well that getting him back has worked out. So overall, I think, honestly, they're in really, really good shape right now. It's leading the AL in ERA to go with that offense. And the offense, especially you talk about Bautista, they haven't even really been healthy in the offense all year. They could potentially look really scary come playoff time.
Matt Snyder of CBS joining us here on Game Points with Matthew Ross. Elsewhere in the American League, the Texas Rangers have been phenomenal all year, even without Prince Fielder, who's now done. They have a nice lead on Seattle and Houston, for that matter, in that West. Are they your favorite in the American League right now, or do you like Toronto? Do you like Cleveland? Who's your favorite? Right now, I'm going to say the Indians, because I think about assuming Salazar gets healthy and they can head in good shape in terms of health into the playoffs. I look at that rotation, and I see Kluber, Carrasco, Salazar. That's the type of trio atop the rotation that can carry you all the way to the World Series title. The offense has been getting it done this year. They've got an MVP caliber player in Francisco Lindor at short. Kipnis is capable of hitting better. Several guys in the lineup are capable of hitting better. It does suck for them that they lost Michael Brantley, because that would have been a huge boost to get. I mean, he finished third in MVP voting a few years ago. But overall, I like the Indians. Second, I still just don't like the Rangers' rotation that much. I mean, Hamels
is good. Darvish is great, assuming he can stay on the field. But past that, it's a bunch of question marks. So I would actually have the Rangers below the Blue Jays. I think the Blue Jays are in great shape. I think the Indians or the Orioles are going to kind of tail off a little bit, even if they sneak into the second wild card and have to face the Red Sox. I don't think that they're going to make the divisional round.
All right, and what about in the National League? With the loss today of Giancarlo Stanton, the Marlins, are they vulnerable right now in terms of that wild card spot? They have that second spot right now. LA and San Fran are doing battle in that West, and then certainly the loser may end up being the top wild card spot. So you have Miami in that second spot, and then you have all these teams kind of chasing them who've been either disappointing or up and down all year. Teams like the Cardinals, who in fact actually are tied with Miami. So you have the Cardinals, the Mets, the Pirates. Who do you like to come out of that bunch, or do you still like Miami?
I think, are the Marlins vulnerable? Absolutely. They already weren't playing that well this month. Stanton has been hitting really well since rebounding from that awful slump, and he was their major power threat in the lineup where you see a bunch of guys. Marcell Ozuna is a very good hitter. Christian Yelich is a great hitter, but he's not powerful yet. And past that, now that Justin Bauer's hurt, it was Stanton going down. Third most in home runs was Martin Prado with 7. So they could totally lose a big, big source of their power, and that was already a void. Plug in Ichiro. He's having a good year, but he's only started 36 games. He's 42 years old. I just wonder how well he's going to hold up when he has to be starting every single day. I think they're very vulnerable. I would probably pick. I'll say the Cardinals. I still don't love them because. Yeah. Diaz is out for the season. Holiday's out for a long time. Walker's hurt. They've had a lot of injury woes, but they have enough there to be able to scrape on in. But the Pirates wouldn't surprise me. The Mets, I'm just not seeing it. There seems to be something missing with this team this year. And again, they have major, major injury woes as well.
He is Matt Snyder. Check out his work on CBSSports.com's MLB coverage. You can follow him at Matt Snyder CBS on Twitter. Matt, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
All right, have a good one.
All right, there you go. That's Matt Snyder of CBS, 645 here on TSN 690. We're here till the top of the hour. Just a reminder, later on tonight, men's semifinals for the 100 meters. We'll have that live for you. Usain Bolt will be racing. Canada's Andre DeGrasse and some of the others, including Justin Gatlin of the United States as well. Stay tuned for that. On the other side, though, our final segment of the show, the horror show that's been the Montreal Alouettes this year. What is the option right now? And by option, I mean, what the hell can we do to turn things around for next year? I'm already looking at next year. We got a guy in studio who thinks he has the answer. He thinks he has the answer for everything. Mo Khan is here. We'll get his take on what needs to be done to this organization next.